The sky above Terrius Fourth burned. It wasn't the warm glow of a sunrise, nor the wild orange of a dust storm. This was a different light, cold, metallic, and merciless, cast by the looming silhouettes of Invarian warships descending through the upper atmosphere. From the ground, the people of Terrius Fourth saw nothing at first. They heard it, a deep, vibrating hum that rattled glass and windows and made teeth ache. The sound of the hive mind's war engines. Then came the shadows, blotting out the pale sun as vessels the size of cities eclipsed the sky. High above, Admiral Zexalon stood on the command deck of the Inevitable, compound eyes glistening in the dim green light of the bridge. Rows of his kin moved in perfect synchrony, their chitinous limbs tapping control surfaces in an unbroken rhythm. There were no words spoken, only the silent hum of a shared mind, each thought feeding into the next with flawless precision. System resistance probability negligible, came a unified thought from his bridge crew. Zexalon's mandibles clicked once. Cleanse it. The first volley hit before the defenders could even raise shields. White lances of energy carved through the planet's orbital stations, turning them into spinning debris fields in seconds. Dropships, shaped like black spears, detached from the warships and plummeted toward the surface, trailing plasma fire. A small, silent vessel drifted far above the slaughter, hidden in the sensor shadow of a dying station. The human scout ship Aurora had been sent to chart asteroid routes, not to watch a planet die. Captain Lisa Reeves gripped the armrests of her chair as the tactical display lit up with invariant signatures, dozens of them. "Get us closer," she ordered quietly. Her helm officer turned, eyes wide. "Ma'am, if they spot us—" "They won't," Reeves cut in. "We need proof. The Admiralty won't move on rumors." The Aurora slid deeper into the debris field, sensors recording every detail of the massacre. On the surface, city shields failed one by one. Each collapse was followed by a blossom of fire as Invarian dropships unleashed their payloads. The hive mind did not waste time on surrender offers. A sensor alarm cut through the tense silence. "They're scanning, Captain," her tactical officer reported. Reeves' heart thudded. The display showed one Invarian destroyer breaking formation, heading straight for their position. "They've seen us," the helm officer whispered. "Full burn," Reeves ordered. "Jump to Sol, now." The Aurora's engines roared to life, flinging the small vessel out of the debris field. Behind them, the Invarian destroyer accelerated, weapons charging. A blinding flash lit the viewport as a beam sliced past their stern, missing by meters. The jump drive spooled, power levels spiking into the red. In the final moment before the stars stretched and folded into hyperspace, Reeves caught one last glimpse of Terrius Fourth through the viewport. A burning world beneath the unblinking eyes of its conquerors. The Invarians had found another victim, and Earth was next. The Aurora emerged from hyperspace in the heart of the Sol system, battered but intact. Her hull still bore scorch marks from the Invarian destroyer's near hits, and one engine thrummed unevenly, as though struggling to breathe. Earth hung in the distance, a blue and white jewel against the black. For Captain Lisa Reeves, the sight should have been comforting. Instead, it felt fragile, breakable. "Open a channel to Earth Defense Command," she ordered. Communications Officer Hale's fingers flew over the console. "Channel open, Captain." The holographic form of Admiral Joe Garcia appeared on the forward display, his uniform immaculate, his face carved into lines of perpetual skepticism. "You're overdue, Reeves," Garcia began. "What happened out there?" Reeves didn't waste words. "Sir, Turius IV is gone. The Invarians have begun their advance into human space." For a moment, the room seemed to still. Garcia's jaw tightened. "You're certain?" Reeves gestured to her science officer. "Play the footage." The bridge darkened as sensor recordings filled the air. Towering Invarian dreadnoughts blotting out the sun, orbital stations shattering under plasma fire, and the slow, methodical descent of dropships into screaming cities. Garcia watched without blinking, but his fingers tightened behind his back. When the feed ended, his voice was quieter, graver. "How long?" "6 months," Reeves replied. "If they maintain current velocity, they'll reach Sol in half a year, less if they bypass certain systems." A tense silence followed, broken only by the hum of the ship's damaged systems. Then Garcia spoke, each word deliberate. "I'll convene the Defense Council. Earth will mobilize immediately." Reeves hesitated. "Sir, their technology, it's beyond anything we've faced. They coordinate like one mind. No hesitation, no error." Garcia nodded grimly. "Which means we'll have to think for them. And that, Captain Reeves, is something we can do better than any hive." Hours later, in the vast, secure chamber of the Defense Council, holograms of Earth's military and political leaders surrounded a slowly rotating model of the Sol system. Systems beyond the outer colonies glowed in red, each one already conquered by the Invarians. Garcia addressed them like a man delivering both a sermon and a death sentence. "They have taken 50 star systems in 3 centuries. They have never been stopped. Turius IV is gone, and now they are coming here." Murmurs broke out among the council members, some whispering about negotiation, others already calling for immediate counterstrikes. Garcia silenced them with a raised hand. "We will not meet them unprepared. New ships will be commissioned. The fleet will be expanded. Experimental systems will be approved for combat use." He leaned forward, his gaze hard as steel. "We will fight." Far above Earth's surface, in the orbiting shipyards, welders and engineers were already at work. Among the skeletal frames of half-built vessels, one ship took shape faster than any other. Her name was stenciled in bold white along her dark hull. USS Defender. The USS Defender hung in low Earth orbit, gleaming against the void. She wasn't the largest vessel in the fleet, not even close, but she was among the most advanced, a prototype built in record time. Her lines were sleek, her hull dark to absorb sensor pings, her weapon systems wired with experimental targeting AI. She was meant to be a ghost that could strike like a hammer. Commander Eric Wells stood on her bridge for the first time, hands clasped behind his back. His crew was still moving into their stations, faces a mixture of pride, curiosity, and the quiet knowledge that this was no ordinary assignment. Lieutenant Amber Garrett, the tactical officer, glanced up from her console. "All weapon systems report green, shield harmonics stable." Chief Engineer Brad Miller's voice came through the comm from deep in engineering. "Main drives running hot, Commander. She'll push to full burn without complaint, but don't expect her to be polite about it." Eric allowed himself the faintest smile. "I'll take fast over polite any day." Later that morning, Admiral Garcia's voice filled the bridge over a secure channel.
Commander Wells, your first mission is reconnaissance. The Envarian fleet has been sighted in the Arcturus system. You will proceed there, observe their movements, and report back. Do not engage. Eric raised an eyebrow. And if they spot us? Then you run, Perseus said flatly. This ship is too valuable to lose before the war even begins. The channel closed, leaving only the soft hum of the bridge systems. Eric looked to his helm officer, Sam Cooper. Set course for Arcturus, best possible speed. The Defender leapt into hyperspace, the stars stretching and bending. Hours passed in tense quiet. Crew members tried to settle in, but everyone knew the reality. They were heading straight toward the monsters who had just erased a world. In the mess hall, Garrett joined Eric at a table. "Sir, you've read the reports on the Envarians?" "I've read them, and the ones they classified, too. Every engagement ends the same way, total destruction of the opposing force. The difference is, we haven't fought them yet." She studied him for a moment. "You think we can beat them?" Eric didn't answer right away. "I think we can make them bleed, and that might be enough." When the Defender emerged in the Arcturus system, the first thing they saw was fire. One of the outer colony worlds was under attack, its orbital defenses already shattered. "Sir, there's a Chivian transport trying to break orbit, Envarian destroyer in pursuit." Eric's orders from Garcia rang in his head. "Do not engage." He stared at the tactical display, jaw tightening. The transport's shields were failing. Every instant screamed at him to act. "Bring us about," he said finally. "Target that destroyer's engines. Prepare to fire." The Defender roared into motion, breaking every order they'd been given.
The Defender streaked toward the Envarian destroyer, her dark hull slicing through the debris-strewn void. On the tactical display, the alien ship loomed like a serrated blade, its surface alive with shifting plates of chitinous armor, pulsing with eerie green light. Lieutenant Garrett's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "Target lock on enemy engines. Plasma batteries armed." Eric gripped the railing behind her. "Fire!" Twin lances of blue plasma leapt from the Defender's forward turrets, crossing the gulf in seconds. The shots struck true, searing into the destroyer's aft section. Alien armor blistered and split, venting clouds of shimmering gas. The Envarian ship staggered, but did not fall. Instead, it pivoted with frightening speed, its compound eye sensors glinting. The first return volley hit the Defender's shields like a thunderclap. "Shields, at 72%, Garrett called. "Evasive pattern Delta 4, Eric ordered. Sam Cooper's hands danced across the helm controls, sending the ship into a violent corkscrew roll that barely dodged the next barrage. In the chaos, the civilian transport broke for open space. Eric caught a glimpse of its battered hull on the viewport as it limped away. "Transport is clear, sir," Kelly Wright reported from communications. "They're transmitting a thank you message. And a warning. The destroyer wasn't alone." Before Eric could ask, 3 more blips appeared on the sensor grid. Envarian attack craft, smaller but faster than the destroyer, converging on the Defender. Brad's voice cut in from engineering. "Commander, that last hit overloaded our port shield generators. I can patch it, but you're flying half-blind until then." "Then we make sure they can't hit us," Eric replied. "Garrett, focus all fire on the destroyer's weapons array. If we can blind their big gun, the escorts won't matter." The Defender lunged in close, skimming the destroyer's hull so near that Envarian plasma fire went wide, too slow to track their movement. Garrett's targeting AI worked furiously, then unleashed a concentrated burst. The enemy's primary cannon erupted in a bloom of molten green. The destroyer shuddered. Its escorts hesitated. A fraction of a second, but enough. Eric seized the moment. "Full burn! Break contact!" The Defender vaulted away, slipping through the narrow gap between 2 attack craft.
Enemy fire lit the void behind them, but none struck home. Moments later, hyperspace swallowed them whole. On the bridge, the adrenaline still lingered. Garrett glanced at Eric. "We just made history. First human ship to damage an invariant warship." Eric didn't smile. "We also just told them we're worth noticing." Far across the stars, aboard the invariant flagship Inevitable, Admiral Zexalon's compound eyes narrowed as the report arrived. The alien voice clicked and hissed, translated into a cold monotone. "A human vessel has struck an invariant destroyer and escaped." For the first time in centuries, the invariant war leader felt something new: interest.
The Inevitable drifted in the shadow of a dead moon, its vast hull like an obsidian reef jutting into space. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of spore bloom, a byproduct of the hive's neural link. Thousands of Nevarian minds pulsed together in perfect synchronicity, their thoughts flowing like a single ocean current. At the center of this mental tide stood Admiral Zexalon. His compound eyes reflected a dozen tactical displays at once. No words passed between him and his subordinates. Communication within the hive mind was instant, a pure transfer of intent and information. Yet, for the sake of the few non-linked auxiliaries, he spoke aloud, in his voice like dry leaves grinding together. "Repeat the report." Subcommander Vextra straightened, her chitin armor plates flexing. "One human vessel engaged and disabled destroyer Vathrix in the Arcturus sector. Casualties minimal. The enemy escaped into hyperspace." Zexalon's mandibles twitched, no outward sign of anger, but the hive's thought currents darkened. For 3 centuries, no prey had struck and fled. Every resistance before had been crushed in a single engagement. "This defender," Zexalon said, tasting the human word. Its action was not instinctive. It was calculated. Across the chamber, a holographic projection of the Arcturus sector flickered into being. Nevarian icons swarmed over human colonies, marking the steady advance toward Sol. But one sector now pulsed red, an anomaly in the perfect march of conquest. Vextra tilted her head, receiving fresh hive data. "Analysis suggests human unpredictability. Their vessels do not adhere to optimal engagement patterns. This one used erratic maneuvering, targeted weapons subsystems directly. Inefficient, yet effective." Zexalon's gaze lingered on the glowing red marker. "An inefficiency that harms us is not inefficiency. It is threat. All hive clusters in this vector will converge. The defender will not be permitted to survive." The Admiral's mind expanded into the hive net, linking with other fleets light years away. He felt the pulse of 1,000 captains receiving his directive, their thoughts folding into his like tributaries into a river. Orders rippled outward. The hunt was on. But beneath the collective unity, a faint dissonance stirred. An alien sensation, unfamiliar to the hive's long memory. Curiosity. Zexalon withdrew from the net, focusing on his own consciousness. If they can harm a destroyer, perhaps they can harm more. We will learn their limits and then remove them. In the dark expanse beyond the Inevitable, Nevarian warships shifted course. A spearhead of black, chitin-armored leviathans now aimed for a single point in space,
the predicted path of the defender. And deep in the hive mind, the first threads of a new thought began to form. For the first time in centuries, the prey had teeth.
The defender emerged from hyperspace in the shadow of a brown dwarf, its faint light painting the hull in muted copper. The crew worked in tense silence, each console awash in data from the last engagement. Brad Miller's voice crackled over the comm from engineering. "We've got the port shields patched, but they're running at 80% capacity. We take another hit like last time, and we're flying with one wing." Eric Wells stood at the bridge's central holotable, studying the shifting sensor readings. "We'll make it work. Right now, survival is about staying invisible." Lieutenant Garrett leaned over her console. "Sir, I've been running long-range sweeps. I'm picking up faint gravitic distortions, multiple sources, tracking along our probable escape route." Eric's head snapped up. "Invariant?" She hesitated. No definitive signature yet, but the pattern's too deliberate for random traffic. A quiet unease settled over the bridge. Sam Cooper, hands resting on the helm controls, finally broke it. "Feels like we kicked a hornet's nest back there." Eric didn't disagree. The defender's strike on the destroyer had been a victory, but victories in war often came with a price. The Invariants were methodical. They didn't let anomalies go unanswered. Kelly Wright's voice was low. "Incoming transmission. Scrambled, but it's human." The holo flared to life, revealing Captain Susan Rodriguez of the Valiant. Her image flickered with static. "Eric," she said without preamble, "we've been tracking movement along the Arcturus corridor, and variant formations are tightening their net. They're not advancing towards Sol, they're converging on you." A hollow weight formed in Eric's stomach. "How long before they close the gap?" Rodriguez shook her head. "Depends on how unpredictable you are. They're good, but they're not used to prey that thinks sideways. If you want to survive, keep them guessing." The signal cut abruptly, leaving the bridge in shadow once more. Eric exhaled slowly, turning to his crew. "Options."
The defender drifted silently in the cold void, its running lights extinguished. On the bridge, the crew waited for their captain's decision. Garrett glanced up from her console, uncertainty in her eyes. "Sir, we can't prep for both plans forever. Which is it? Hide or go loud?" Eric Wells leaned over the holo table, tracing a finger along the star map. "Neither." A ripple of surprise moved through the crew. "Sir?" Cooper asked. Eric's gaze hardened. "We're not going to run or hide. We're going to make them chase us somewhere they don't want to go." Minutes later, the defender's main drive flared to life, punching into hyperspace. The coordinates were locked to a system the Invarians had bypassed centuries ago, Darnus Prime. Officially, it was a dead world, its unstable star constantly flaring, its gravity wells unpredictable, and its asteroid belt dense enough to shred careless ships. But Eric had studied its charts. Within that chaos was a narrow corridor, one that could be navigated with precision and speed. To anyone else, it was suicide. To the defender, it could be a weapon. Garrett's voice was tight. "If we miscalculate by even a fraction, the gravitic shear will tear us apart." "That's why they won't expect us to go there," Eric replied. "They'll follow, thinking we're desperate. Then, the system itself becomes our ally." Back aboard the Inevitable, Admiral Zexalon received the latest hive feed. The Defender's hyperspace trail had been detected, heading toward Darnus Prime. Vextra's mandibles clicked in doubt. "Darnus is death. No logic compels prey to flee into such hazards." Zexalon's eyes narrowed. "Humans are not logical. That is why they must be destroyed." He ordered 3 destroyers and 2 interceptors to pursue, with the rest of the fleet moving to cut off escape routes. When the Defender emerged into normal space, the view was chaos incarnate. Plasma flares from the unstable star lit the system in shifting gold and crimson. Massive asteroids spun through the void, some glowing faintly from recent collisions. Garrett's sensors lit up. "They're splitting. 2 are trying to flank us, 3 on direct pursuit." Eric allowed himself a grim smile. "Good. The closer they get, the better this works. A massive flare erupted from the star, slamming into the asteroid belt. Shockwaves sent debris spiraling across the Invarian formation. One interceptor struck a spinning fragment, its hull shattering in a blossom of molten shards. Eric watched the readouts. "And that," he murmured, "is just the opening act."
The Defender skimmed the edge of the asteroid belt, its shields flaring each time a shard scraped too close. On the bridge, the tension was electric. Garrett's voice cut through it. Invarians closing, 3 kilometers and gaining. Eric's eyes were locked on the tactical overlay. Hold course another 20 seconds. Miller's voice came from engineering. "Captain, at this speed, the hull plating's heating faster than I can cycle it. Any longer in 20 seconds, Brad. Hold her together." Behind them, the Invarian destroyers surged forward, their weapons cutting through debris like blades through paper. The hive mind's precision allowed them to maneuver through hazards without hesitation. But they didn't know the Defender had mapped this route weeks ago while running drills in simulation. 10 seconds, Cooper called out. Eric's jaw tightened. "Amber, on my mark, full sensor burst, maximum intensity. Blind them." As the countdown reached 0, Garrett unleashed the pulse. A wave of electronic noise flooded the Invarian sensors, masking the sudden shift in the Defender's trajectory. Cooper yanked the ship hard to starboard, diving into a narrow canyon between 2 massive tumbling asteroids. The pursuing destroyers didn't adjust in time. The first slammed head-on into a rock the size of a city block, detonating in a silent fireball. The second clipped the canyon wall, spinning out of control before vanishing in a collision. 2 down, Garrett reported, breathless. Eric didn't celebrate. "We're not done yet. Bring us around. Heading 182. Target those magnetic fissures." The Defender looped wide, skimming dangerously close to the unstable star's corona. Here, plasma storms arced between asteroids like living lightning. The Invarian interceptors gave chase, still blinded by residual interference. "Fire torpedoes into the fissures," Eric ordered. Garrett hesitated. "That'll destabilize the whole field." "That's the point." 3 torpedoes streaked out, vanishing into the jagged cracks in the asteroids. A heartbeat later, the magnetic fields ruptured, sending charged fragments hurtling outward at lethal velocity. 1 interceptor vanished instantly in a burst of molten debris. The other tried to evade, but was struck broadside, its hull peeling apart before it tumbled into the star's pull. On the inevitable, Admiral Zexalon's compound eyes widened fractionally. The hive feed was full of static, the loss reports coming in like hammer blows. "Analysis," he demanded. Vextra's voice was cold. "The human ship is using the system as a weapon." Zexalon's mandibles clicked. "Then we will burn the system to ash with them in it." Back on the Defender, alarms blared. "Massive solar flare incoming," Garrett shouted. Eric saw the readings, off the scale. The flare would consume the asteroid belt in under a minute. "Cooper," he said, voice steady, "get us out before this whole place turns into a furnace." The Defender leapt toward the hyperspace window, the collapsing chaos of Darnus Prime boiling in their wake.
The Defender skimmed the edge of the asteroid belt, its shields flaring each time a shard scraped too close. On the bridge, the tension was electric. Garrett's voice cut through it. Navarians closing, 3 kilometers and gaining. Eric's eyes were locked on the tactical overlay. Hold course, another 20 seconds. Miller's voice came from engineering. "Captain, at this speed the hull plating's heating faster than I can cycle it. Any longer in 20 seconds, Brad. Hold her together." Behind them, the Navarian destroyers surged forward, their weapons cutting through debris like blades through paper. The hive mind's precision allowed them to maneuver through hazards without hesitation. But they didn't know the Defender had mapped this route weeks ago while running drills in simulation. 10 seconds, Cooper called out. Eric's jaw tightened. "Amber, on my mark, full sensor burst, maximum intensity, blind them." As the countdown reached 0, Garrett unleashed the pulse. A wave of electronic noise flooded the Navarian sensors, masking the sudden shift in the Defender's trajectory.
Cooper yanked the ship hard to starboard, diving into a narrow canyon between two massive tumbling asteroids. The pursuing destroyers didn't adjust in time. The first slammed head-on into a rock the size of a city block, detonating in a silent fireball. The second clipped the canyon wall, spinning out of control before vanishing in a collision. "Two down," Garrett reported, breathless. Eric didn't celebrate. "We're not done yet. Bring us around. Heading 182. Target those magnetic fissures." The Defender looped wide, skimming dangerously close to the unstable star's corona. Here, plasma storms arced between asteroids like living lightning. The Navarian interceptors gave chase, still blinded by residual interference. "Fire torpedoes into the fissures," Eric ordered. Garrett hesitated. "That'll destabilize the whole field." "That's the point." 3 torpedoes streaked out, vanishing into the jagged cracks in the asteroids. A heartbeat later, the magnetic fields ruptured, sending charged fragments hurtling outward at lethal velocity. One interceptor vanished instantly in a burst of molten debris. The other tried to evade, but was struck broadside, its hull peeling apart before it tumbled into the star's pull. On the inevitable, Admiral Zexalon's compound eyes widened fractionally. The hive feed was full of static, the lost reports coming in like hammer blows. "Analysis," he demanded. Vextra's voice was cold. "The human ship is using the system as a weapon." Zexalon's mandibles clicked. "Then we will burn the system to ash with them in it." Back on the Defender, alarms blared. "Massive solar flare incoming," Garrett shouted. Eric saw the readings. Off the scale. The flare would consume the asteroid belt in under a minute. "Cooper," he said, voice steady, "get us out before this whole place turns into a furnace." The Defender leapt toward the hyperspace window, the collapsing chaos of Darnus Prime boiling in their wake.
The Defender emerged from hyperspace into the outer reaches of a Sol system. Earth hung far in the distance, a pale blue jewel against the black. On the bridge, the crew's exhaustion was visible. Garrett's uniform was scorched at the shoulder, Miller's hands were still smeared with coolant, and Cooper's eyes had that faraway look of someone who'd stared death in the face and lived to tell about it. "Damage report," Eric ordered, his voice quiet but steady. Miller's reply was grim. "We've got half the shield generators offline, engines running at 60%, and the primary reactor needs a full refit, but she'll hold together until we reach dry dock." "Good," Eric said. "We've got a story to tell." In Earth's orbit, the battered Defender was met by the warships Valiant, Dauntless, and Resolute, fresh from their own delaying actions. Captain Susan Rodriguez hailed them first. "Defender, this is Valiant. We heard you took on half the Envarian pursuit fleet and lived. That true?" Eric's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Something like that." Hours later, the senior officers stood before Admiral Garcia in the command chamber of Earth Defense Station Alpha. Holomaps of the Alpha Centauri sector hovered above them, dotted with red markers showing Envarian positions. Garcia listened silently as Eric and Garrett described the trap at Darnus Prime, the destruction of multiple Envarian vessels, and their narrow escape from the solar flare. When they finished, Garcia nodded. "You bought us 6 days. That's enough time to mobilize the remaining fleets and reinforce the Alpha Centauri defense line. More importantly," he leaned forward, "you've proven they can bleed." In the far reaches of space, aboard the Inevitable, Admiral Zexalon reviewed the reports in cold silence. The human vessel Defender had inflicted losses disproportionate to its size, an anomaly the hive mind could not yet explain. Vextra spoke carefully. "Shall we allocate additional forces to pursue this vessel?" Zexalon's mandibles clicked once. "No. Let them think they have won a victory. Their defiance will draw them to us, and when they gather," his eyes glittered, "we will extinguish them all at once." Back aboard the Defender, the crew stood together in the observation deck, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. Garrett broke the quiet. "Do you think we can really win?" Eric didn't answer right away. He thought of the flare consuming the Envarian ships, of the narrow escape, of the knowledge that the enemy could be hurt. "We don't have to win all at once. We just have to fight long enough for them to realize we're not like the others they've conquered. We're not going to kneel. Ever." As the Defender slipped into Earth's dock, repair crews swarming to meet her, a message was already spreading across human space.
about a lone warship that had faced the unstoppable and survived. It wasn't just a battle. It was a beginning. And somewhere, deep in the shadows between stars, the Invarians were already plotting their next move.